Hi, it's Ileana. So today we're going to look at the galactic healing grids and how those are created. I had been working in the Akashic records with creating what is a galactic healing grid, specifically working with Moldavite. Moldavite is starting to become rarer to find physically, because it is a type of a stone slash crystal that didn't originate from Earth. It came here via meteorite several million years ago. It was deposited by a meteorite, and it is a silica type of a crystal stone. So it did become a form of a rare glass slash crystal mineral with elements of healing. So it's good for healing. It's good for activating psychic ability like telepathy, empathy, and other types of psychic abilities to work in the Akashic records to see your past lives. It's really good for activating the third eye and the crown chakra to go deep into your soul and find out who you are on a soul level. It has those energetic properties. Plus it removes blockages. It's good for protection, from setting protection from outside interferences just by wearing Moldavite as a pendant, as a ring, or a bracelet to wear it on you. It's also good for manifestation and for prosperity. It removes any blockages from the body. It heals trauma, physical pain, and helps you to see your past lives and activate psychic ability for telepathic communication. And again, to ward off anything not of the highest good, negative entities, attachments, and general protection to create a shield, energetic shield around you. Because Moldavite comes in colors of light green to darker green, moss green precisely. So it has various healing properties and metaphysical properties. And for me, I personally don't have any Moldavite in my home. I always liked Moldavite. I just didn't feel drawn to getting some. And the reason why is that it's very strong. When you first get Moldavite, it takes time to acclimate to its energy, because if it is of non-human origin, it is of extraterrestrial origin. So it's not a crystal stone that's made on this earth. It has star properties. It comes from the stars. So this is why I put this in a galactic crystal grid, because Moldavite is special. And again, I love Moldavite. I'm drawn to the color. I'm drawn to the frequency of tapping into it from a field of just energy. So when I was looking at Moldavite pieces, I found the best type of pieces I could find, the best specimens out there. And I saved them. And I created a galactic healing grid. Crystal grids can be done with physical crystals on the grid, or it could be done from a galactic perspective of a holographic field where it's still on a physical level, but it is designed as a holographic visual image of healing and protection. For me, I still feel all the healing qualities of this Moldavite, all these pieces on this grid. And I'll have this hanging up in my home in prominently, either in my office or in one of my rooms, healing rooms. People say that Moldavite is very powerful. Like, you can feel its frequencies. So sleeping with it, you can sleep with it in your room, But if you're sensitive to its energies, it takes time to adjust to that frequency until that sensitivity is balanced. Because for some people, it has improved sleep, and for other people, it has opened pathways to psychic ability and communication and just seeing into other realms and dimensions, having out-of-body experiences and even astral projection, because it really works on your energy field to open you up to experiences. This is what people have reported who have Moldavite physically in their homes. Since creating this particular galactic Moldavite healing grid and protection and psychic manifestation and activation, I have felt a deeper connection to accessing the Akashic records, working in my own Akashic records and other higher dimensional beings' Akashic records. It's connected me to sun codes, to fire codes, to crystal gems, and just a higher amount of information and universal knowledge coming in openly. Just by working with this grid alone, creating it, feeling frequency expansion in my brain, like all the brain circuits are firing at hyperspeed. That's what I've noticed when I created this grid. And this is created by me, like personally by me. And I didn't know how I would create anything from Moldavite, because this color is green. It's moss green. So it's kind of hard to match it with any sacred geometry symbols or to put it on a grid. And then my intuitive self said to me, you need to do an overlay of blue, light blue, dark blue, and white as a symmetrical sacred geometry base for your grid first, and then put the green pieces of the Moldavite in this symmetrical kind of circular pattern on the grid. So when you're doing crystal grids, you always need a central stone or a point that's bigger than the other crystal points, because that is your central focal point of activating all the other crystals or stones on your grid. So you need one central point, and then usually 6 to 8 pieces of points, either double terminated or single terminated. So just little or bigger pieces of points, crystal points. So on this grid, I have 8. Usually most people, for starting a grid, they have 6. I have 8 because symmetrically this grid required 8 pieces of Moldavite. And it was, I had to think about the alignment and the shapes and how this would look like. And I had to find a center stone, something that had several levels to it and layers. And once I had the inner grid figured out, because you have your central point, then you have your outer stones or crystals aligning with the center point crystal in the middle, and that's to activate all the pieces together in the center part of the grid, the sort of the outer portion of the grid on the grid itself, where you have your sacred geometry symbol, whatever it is. Mine is a mandala. It's a blue, various levels, layers, and colors of blue and white. So, because again, Moldavite is green, so color selection for your sacred geometry base for your grid is very important. Blue and white is the only thing that worked properly with this kind of a Moldavite grid. So I would say this was complex to do. It may look simple, but it took me 4 hours to put this together. And then just to energize everything, I worked on what I would want outside of the grid. So I found some Moldavite cubes and some Moldavite pyramids, natural raw pyramids. And I put it around the grid, and then I put the sun codes, the golden sun codes, just to center everything together to activate this galactic healing grid. Protection and manifestation is everything. Healing, manifestation, and protection, and activating psychic ability. When it was all put together, it felt right to me. It felt, wow, this is super energizing, super effective, and the amount of information that was coming in as this grid was finished and created, I'm like, the information wouldn't stop. And the psychic connection with Akashic records and higher dimensional beings in those Akashic records, I kept getting so much information on things that I needed to know to expand my own learning processes. And so for me, I have created many crystal grids, but I've never had a focus specifically on working with stones that don't come from this earth. And finally, the time came to do galactic healing grids, to work with specific stones that I've already known about. I've known about Moldavite for a while, but Moldavite has become rarer to find and buy, and you have to be careful not to buy a fake Moldavite. You have to know a good source, reputable dealers of who sell Moldavite. And Moldavite has become expensive. One little piece could be like $100 or more, because it comes from the Czech Republic in certain mines. So it's not that easy to mine it and get it out from the earth, because it has become a form of very rare glass. That's a crystal in a stone. And Moldavite can be shaped into various things. It could be raw Moldavite. It could be shaped into jewelry and cabochons. So for necklaces, pendants, rings, and bracelets. So Moldavite has various purposes, or just raw chunks of Moldavite that come in points, that come in clusters or cubes naturally. How it's shaped when it's deep inside the earth. It's vulcanized, so it's activated and heated. Then it's treated by the natural sand, that it's inside the sand. Then it comes to the surface of the earth. It comes up from the center of the earth. From when the meteorite hit from that impact crater, the elements of what is Moldavite gets fully formed by the earth processes, volcanic activity in sand, being within sand. So that's how Moldavite is created. It's a very intricate process. And so again, it's very rare. Again, in me personally, never purchased Moldavite, never attempted it, but finally, my intuition just said, it's time to work with Moldavite. You need to create a galactic grid with Moldavite. It's time to go deeper into creating crystal grids that are complex. Take on the challenge and work with Moldavite. So I thought to myself, let's try it and see what we can do in a galactic healing grid, crystal grid. And boy, did it turn out. I think it's interesting, and to me it turned out well. And again, it took 4 hours to figure out how to do this because of the colors, because of the frequency, the layout. There are sacred geometry base grids on what you'll put your crystals on that have alignments where you can tell where you're supposed to put your crystals on. But for this, there's no alignment design of any sort. You just have to intuitively follow your gut feeling of what looks good and feels good here. So I was like putting all the pieces where I think they sort of need to be symmetrically, geometrically, and just feeling good. How do the side stones connect to the center stone, the activator? Because the central stone in the middle, it is the center stone, and everything around it activates the center, and together they activate the grid. Plus the outer layer, I felt more stones were needed for full activation, and the sun code symbols. So this is what activated this grid, and the colors were important. We needed blue, we needed white, dark blue, light blue. We needed moss green, Moldavite, juicy moss green. So it took time finding that, plus the gold and sun code images themselves to blend this in with the grid. So all together, it needed all of those components to work as a galactic grid. This has become more rare, creating this kind of a grid, because it took time to figure out, what am I doing here? Why am I creating this? What's its purpose? What will it do? And its purpose is healing, protection, and manifestation, and activation of psychic abilities. It has all of it encoded within this grid. So thinking about my intention, the purpose for creating this, and I thought it would be easy. Just put it all together like you usually do. I've done several other grids from a holographic perspective, working with finding pieces of crystals and stones and doing digital grids. And I think it has the same impact as if you had all of these stones physically. These grids work for me this way as well. And since I don't have access to Moldavite pieces, I went and looked at all the pieces that I would be buying if I was physically buying it, and putting it into a galactic healing grid through holographic design and imagery. So for me, this is a real grid. It's impactful, it's beautiful, and it works. It's just as good as physical grids. There's no difference for me. It's crystals. They're activated, they're connected, they're done exactly as any grid would be. Time, energy, focus, and intention to create this. And I think it turned out good. I'm very happy with it. It works for me. It's very powerful. I'll have this somewhere in my office, not in my bedroom, because I could feel its energy. Moldavite frequency, woo, it's strong. It's very powerful and energetic. So I won't be sleeping with this hanging above my bed. It's very powerful. I'll have it in my office because the energy, it does energize, it does activate, it does the healing, it does the protection and the manifestation. So I'll have this printed out as a print, large scale print in my office because I really love the Moldavite grid, Galactic grid, and I like the sun codes as well. So it's I think it's doing its job well. I'm feeling its energies, and I'm still receiving informational and psychic downloads and communication, psychic communication from the Akashic records and those higher dimensional beings who actually helped to create this particular grid. I had input and suggestions. Because when I started making this, again, I tried various different colors of sacred geometry base symbols. I tried yellow, I tried gold, I tried orange, and it would just wash out the Moldavite. It was just clash. And then Marisha who I've been working with in the Akashic Record, said, "Dear, you need light blue, dark blue, and white as a base for moss Moldavite. Because moss is deep green." She's like, nothing is going to work. Nothing else is going to work here with this kind of a color scale. So you need blue and white. And she said you can incorporate the gold and the yellow in the sun symbols outside of the grid in your sun codes to make it active and have more Moldavite around it. And once I did that, I listened to her and I'm like, yes, this is good. This makes sense. This works. The colors go well together. The energy goes well together. Everything just fits beautifully in the sacred geometry as it came together with the crystals and the stones of the Moldavite. So I just wanted to share how galactic crystal grids are made, what their purposes are, how they work, and how you can create one yourself. And if you want to work with physical stones to do this, there are many different crystals out there, many sacred geometry grid bases for creating crystal grids. This one I would say this is intermediary. This is intermediary type of a grid creation. It challenged me to go outside the box thinking and get more creative, meet the challenge, keep working at it until I figured out how to do it correctly and how to keep mixing the stones, just how to keep mixing them, turning them different sides, different ways, different colors to match it up correctly until this formed. And I felt good with this as the final outcome. In placement of everything, the crystals, the symbols, everything fit and energetically felt good. But that's when I knew this is it. This is it. It's done. Beautiful. All the stones connect together. Everything fits. I like it. And finalized it, and this is the final outcome of it. So thank you so much, and namaste. Trust yourself, trust your intuitive ability for what will work for you in creating these kinds of grids. Play around with the placements of the crystals, play around with how you feel about the crystals, the sacred geometry shapes of the grid base itself, and just make sure you feel good with everything coming together in the placement of your grid. Feel comfortable, and if you don't feel comfortable, play around with different shapes, colors, vibration until you get it the way you want your grid to be. There's no really a set way that you have to have it. Usually it's to start with 6 crystals on the outer perimeter and a center in the middle, but I can go up and down in different shapes, sizes, and different placements. For myself, sometimes I'll do 6, sometimes I'll do 8. In the surrounding, what surrounds the center point crystal or cluster, that one's usually bigger than the other pieces around it. But I play around with this. My recipes for crystal grids vary from different shapes, sizes, symmetry, alignment, and placement. I play with everything, and I love to experiment. I call this crystal alchemy, and I will play with the crystal alchemy recipes for crystal grids because I just like to play and experiment and just enjoy the process of creating these in whatever they're meant to look like and be in the final outcome. So it's been interesting, and I look forward to doing more of these and having fun. And this grid is in creating protection healing grids with quantum energetics of sun portals and the light portals book, both PDF and paperback. Links included for the book for all copies.